unmute yourself and talk to me, or you can also put your responses in the chat box. Let's make this interactive, which is the only way how we can really interact and make this useful. What do you think you will do? What would you say if a client comes and tells you this, that I don't think anyone actually cares about me? Yes, Bisman?
I think I would go with the second option. It sounds like you're feeling really alone right now, because that way I
All
won't
right.
be dismissing her feeling completely and I won't make it awkward as well.
Fair. Yes, that makes sense. What about others? I also see some responses in the chat box. Option one, that's not true. People around you do care. All right. Option B. Okay. C and then B. So you would first stay silent, hold eye contact with your client, and then you would try to validate what they're feeling or mirror it, or try to understand and empathize. Fair enough. Any other response apart from what is already available on the screen? Because guys, see, therapy in general is very subjective, right? There is no template that all of us can just follow. So of course it depends on what comes to your mind first. Really imagine if the client said that to you, that I don't think anyone actually cares about me. What do you think you would say in that moment to your client? Will you say anything or will you not respond to that? There are no right or wrong answers there. I just want to know, your perspective on this. Yes, Gauri?
Uh, yes, ma'am. I would love to ask my client that in what context he are saying that people do not care about him, or like, is there any particular experience he had? I would love to know that.
Guys, let us just wait for 2 minutes because Avni is having network issues. So she will join us soon.
Hi, sorry. There was a power cut, so I got cut off. Gauri, you were saying something?
Yes, ma'am. Like, I would
Yeah,
love to
tell me.
ask my client, like, what experience you had, that's why you are just thinking this way. So I would love to know that, first of all.
Okay, fair. So you would want to explore where this statement is actually coming from. Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely. Um, I would ask what makes you think so. Tanvi also agrees with you. Anybody else? Any other perspective? And I would want all of you to sort of reflect on that when you start thinking about it, when you started thinking about that how would I respond if my client said this? What happened in that moment? Okay, and stay with that thought as we move ahead. Next slide. All right. So, like I said, please stay in that moment, thinking about actually focusing on what happens with me as a therapist when I need to respond to somebody else. All right. When somebody's emotional well being is my responsibility. So, over here, we're talking about the moment before you respond, which is not a technique, it's more like a threshold, and it happens in a cyclical manner. So, you can see over here on the screen, first thing that happens, the client tells you something which is either sensitive, it's hard, it's painful, and you hear it, you receive that sensory information. Second, before you can even think about this information, your nervous system reacts. So your nervous system reacts to whatever information your client has told you. And your nervous system then decides whether you are anxious about it. Did it make you uncomfortable? Did it make you sad? Do you have an urge to fix their problem instantly? If you remember, the first option was telling the client that no, don't think like that. There are plenty of people who care about you. Fixing urge, right? So your nervous system is reacting first. Third, the hijack happens. Hijack means that your nervous system overpowers your logical thinking and response. So whatever reply then comes out is not you being a therapist, it is your nervous system controlling, your responses. If you got anxious, your anxiety writes your response. If you got scared, uncomfortable, whatever it is that your nervous system felt will decide how you respond. And lastly, of course, you speak, you respond. What comes out was decided at second one. It was decided as soon as your nervous system decided to, either being anxious or uncomfortable, and then overpowered or hijacked your logical self. So the moment before you speak is not empty. It can be full of your anxiety, your need to help your client, your discomfort with whatever information they are sharing, or the silence which is now between you and your client, and you get really uneasy with that silence. The point is to learn to notice all of that instead of trying to ignore it. So even during our trainings, all our trainee therapists, some of whom are students, some of whom are early career therapists, when we do these role plays with them, that is when they actually decide, and that is when they figure out how their body responds to a client. It's not about what you read in books, and it's not about how logically you can think about a case. First and foremost, it's about how your body reacts to that information, and that often can only happen with practice, right? Next slide. So let's talk about the hijack inventory. We talked about, how your nervous system responds first, and then it will overpower your logical brain, everything that you know about, what you should and shouldn't say to a client, and it will respond for you. So what is that hijack? What is actually happening there? Over here, you can see that, these are just some examples of what could happen. A, you reassure the client immediately. No, everything will be fine. It will be okay. Don't worry. Empty reassurance, I don't even know the context of where this statement is coming from. Number two, you relate with them. Oh, I also have been through this. I can relate with you. So, in my need to empathize with my client, and in order to find that connection with my client, I end up relating to them thinking that I'm helping. But is it really helping telling somebody that I have gone through the same pain without knowing where it's coming from? Something to think about. Third, you minimize. Oh, at least, the worst has not happened yet. At least this didn't happen. You should be thankful. At least you have someone to talk to. You are minimizing whatever experience right now. Fourth, you advise. You instantly jump to give them solutions, solving their problems. You deflect, you try to distract them because you are uncomfortable. Because it is difficult for you, and because your nervous system has already hijacked your logical self, you try to deflect from the topic. And lastly, you go blank. You don't know what to say, you don't know how to respond, you don't know what should I ask next, what should I say, is it the right thing to say, will I scare them, I'm so anxious, I don't know what to do. You yourself become, dysregulated in a sense. So this is your hijack inventory, which again I would want you to keep in mind as we move ahead, right? Next slide. So We have talked about the hijack inventory. There could be a number of factors why our nervous system is responding the way it is. Maybe it is stemming from our own personal experiences. We are human beings too. And perhaps I am not trained enough to, separate my nervous energy from my logical therapist self. But in that moment, when the client has come to you and is sharing this sensitive information with you, you who are a stranger to them, what do they actually need from you in that moment? Number one, to be heard. It's very, very basic, guys. Most people just want to be heard. They don't want you to be distracted, to focus on something else. They want your undivided attention, to hear them as they come to whatever they are saying without judgment, as if nothing in the world matters more than what they are saying. To feel like what I'm saying actually matters. My opinions matter, my pain matters, my experiences matter. Number two, to not be fixed. Again, the fixing impulse that we have is often stemming from our own discomfort. Because I'm uncomfortable with my client being in that pain, I try to solve their problem for them, which is not my job as a therapist. Most people don't want solutions. They also know that you can't do much about certain things which are going on in their lives. They don't want to be fixed. They just want somebody that will stay with them. They want the weight to be witnessed. That means whatever pain I'm bringing, whatever baggage I'm bringing, confusion, no matter what my concern is, if it is important enough for me to take therapy, if it is important enough for me to share it with you, you as my therapist should also feel that weight. That's what I want. That's what a client wants. And lastly, permission to stay in it. Most of us get uncomfortable with silence. And now, this is one topic which we cater to a lot. And this is one, I would say, soft skill, which is extremely nuanced and at the same time very, very important. How do you use silence as a tool in therapy? How do you not make it awkward? Don't run away from silence and just sit with it. Most of the times, the clients also need that if I've shared something with you that has been a burden on me all these years or all these months, instead of immediately responding to it, why can't you just sit with it with me? Both of us are processing this information together, that this is something which happened. This is how I'm feeling. So, the permission to just stay with my experiences, with my emotions, and not to deflect from them. Yeah. Next slide. All right. So, again, let's do an activity together. I just want you guys to think about a situation. Can be real based on your internship, based on your real clients, can be hypothetical, maybe a case you read in a book, anything. Where if a client said something, what do you think would make you freeze, or would want to fix it, or say something that you might regret later? Just think of a situation where if my client comes and says something like that to me, I would probably freeze, or I wouldn't know what to say next. Or I might just say something which is not therapeutically correct, or which I might regret later. Think about it, take your time, take a couple of minutes, reflect on your experiences so far. And again, this is an exercise for your own self. So when we train people, when we are saying that we are getting trained in soft skills, it's not as much about how to deal with the client, it's more about how do you deal with your own self and be the best version of yourself to be a therapist, right? So this is also just for your reflection. What do you think a client would have to say to make you freeze, want to fix it, maybe say something that you might regret later, or force you to sort of be anxious, or I don't know, reassure them without knowing context? All those hijacks that we talked about. You are free to raise your hands, unmute yourself, talk to me, or you can put your responses in the chat box. This is an exercise for you. So think about it. Yes, Bisman?
I think when a client tries to present their suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
and for a therapist who's new to the field, it might be difficult to handle that.
Yes.
Sometimes they are not direct, but they can be really intimidating.
Mhm. Yeah, fair enough. I think that's a great point where you said intimidating. A client can feel intimidating, and you know how you brought up suicidal ideation or anything that's volatile. When a client is volatile, when you know their safety is at risk, perhaps even if you're not new, maybe it can make your nervous system sort of go into an alarm mode. Absolutely makes sense. um Abusive cases, all right, guys, I would also want you to sort of think about which kind of hijack would happen for you. So, like, when you say that it's an abusive case, do you think you might end up freezing or reassuring them or trying to relate with them too much? Or, you might have an urge to fix their problem. What kind of hijack do you think might happen? Hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Sadaf. Yeah, sometimes our clients' experiences and then their response to those experiences make us feel very disconnected with them, that I can't relate how you are feeling in that particular situation. Absolutely makes sense. Okay, infidelity. Okay. What do you think? What kind of situations would probably bring up, um, you know, an urge to fix? Or should I say the urge to pull the client out of that situation, solve their problem, just make them feel better somehow. What do you think? What kind of situation might that bring up in you? Anybody? No answers? Okay. Yes, Avni.
I think for me, it could be a situation where, the client is saying that they're actively avoiding some conversations with friends or like family members because, they don't know how to express. So then
Mm-hmm.
that can kind of trigger me, you have to communicate. Like that is something that's a must. So I feel like that would be a difficult for me to deal with.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And sometimes situations like that can also bring up frustration in us. We know that you have to communicate, but the client is saying, I can't communicate. And then you sort of reach a wall that, I don't know how to move past this. They have to communicate. I'm growing frustrated. Absolutely. Makes sense. Um, they forgot about certain experience in their life, but they fear it at the same time. Okay, I think I would need more explanation on that. Maybe I'm not getting your point. Pratiksha says maybe the intergenerational problems, that kind of issue or problem can bring an urge to solve. Absolutely. Perhaps family dynamics, enmeshed family, no boundaries, and sometimes our own opinions and the background that we are coming from can influence what we think about the client. Something that seems so obvious to us might not be obvious to the client. And that can create a lot of communication barriers between me and my client. Absolutely. All right. Thank you everyone so much for sharing. I would, want you guys to keep thinking about this even after the workshop. Just for your own self, what are your hijacks, or what are those moments for you where that moment sort of gets interrupted, where you don't know what to say next, where you know that perhaps I don't know how to respond. Okay, maybe a problem or an issue that I personally have been through. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That is, a difficult call when you are actually relating too much with the client because you've been through something very similar. And it can get difficult to maintain that professional boundary at that moment. Absolutely. Okay, next slide. So now let's talk about how to own the 3 seconds. And when we say 3 seconds, it just means the moment before you respond. So those couple of seconds before you actually reply to the client or respond to the client. How can you manage that or make it more mindful? Number one, you notice your body first. Like I said, your body reacts to a client before your mind or your brain can. So you notice everything about your body, the way you're breathing, your shoulders. Is there any tension? Am I sitting cross-handedly, or is my posture more welcoming? Did I grow a little bit tense? And is this making me uneasy somewhere in my body? All of this tells you the hijack is active, and then perhaps your nervous system is sort of, again, controlling how you respond. Number two, you let the silence be theirs, which means that silence after your client has said something is not necessarily yours to fill. You don't have to rush to immediately say something to fill that silence. It's okay if you don't respond. It belongs to the client. The client has shared sensitive information. Maybe they are processing. Maybe this pocket of time is therapeutic to them. So your job at that point becomes that you stay with them in that moment. You stay present, you don't get distracted. You give them eye contact, you give them non-verbal cues of encouragement. And you allow that time for the client to maybe give you more information or take their time thinking about what they just shared with you. Yeah. Number three, reflect before you respond. So, the most powerful tool is to mirror back whatever you just heard before you even, add anything to it. So, whatever your client told you, many of you chose response number two in that first activity. So, whatever you heard, you reflect it back like a mirror. It sounds like you're feeling very lonely these days. It sounds it's been heavy on you. It sounds you're carrying it all alone. Whatever the client said, I said it back before I could add any other information in it by myself. That itself is a very, very validating experience. Fourth, you ask instead of answering. So I always tell this to all the trainees that we have in our batches. If there is ever a moment of doubt where you don't know what to say, what to ask, how to respond, get curious. Ask the client, how was that experience for you? What did you feel in that moment? Can you tell me more? Do you want to talk more about this? How can I help? Just ask them and they'll give you enough to go on, to keep the conversation going. So, whenever you are in doubt with a client, get curious. That's something that will always help you. Yes. See, the silence of the therapist might make a client uncomfortable, right? So then it becomes your judgment call in the session. For example, if the client shared something and you have decided to stay silent, stay in the moment with them, and you're worried that this might be making my client uncomfortable, you don't have to sit there for 15 minutes without saying anything. You stay there for a couple of minutes, you notice how the client is being. Are they getting restless? Are they looking at me expectantly? They want something, they want me to add something to it. You'll know that. Otherwise, if couple of minutes have passed, you can urge them or give them a small prompt. That must have been heavy. Thank you for sharing. Do you want to tell me more about this? Whatever it is that you find suitable in that moment. So again, it becomes your judgment call and how attuned you are to the client to notice if this silence is making uncomfortable, making them uncomfortable or not. And that itself is data for you. Why did this silence make my client uncomfortable? Get curious. Yeah. Next slide. All right. So before I conclude this workshop, I would want all of you to complete this sentence. You can put your responses in the chat box. Again, take your time. In the moment before I speak, I notice dash, and from today I will choose dash instead. So this just means if you notice that every time a client starts crying in front of me, I freeze and I panic. I don't know what to do. That is what I notice. But from today onwards, I will choose to, I don't know, stay there with them, let them cry, be there when they are having a breakdown, and normalize that experience for them. That it's okay to cry, there's nothing embarrassing about it. That was an example for you guys. So I just want you guys to, try and fill these blanks for your own selves if there's something that you notice. And then how do you choose to change it, if at all, from today onwards? If there is anything that you found useful from the workshop that you would want to then apply to your own practices or your own client sessions, you can take a couple of minutes, and then I would like for you guys to just give your responses in the chat box, and of course you're free to unmute and talk to me as well. And while you are doing that, let's have a small recap of whatever we have talked about. Your takeaways: number one, the moment before you speak is not insignificant. Just because it has not really been addressed does not mean that it does not matter. I opened with this. I told you guys that these are nuances which we often learn on the road, in practice, while sitting in front of a client. So your moment matters a lot. Number two, your hijack patterns, be it reassurance, urging, the urge to fix, that freeze response, be it anything, being aware of those hijack patterns again matter a lot. What the client needs from you is just to be fully heard, be held, not to be fixed, and sort of like a permission to stay in their experience, not be distracted from it. And lastly, one thing that you need to practice as you start being a therapist for your clients is to notice your body. Your body reacts first. Let the silence be theirs, let it be their call. Reflect before you respond, and then ask instead of answering. Whenever you are in doubt, get curious. All right? Okay, guys, I'm waiting for your responses in the chat box. I notice I try to relate my own experiences to the client too much. And from today onwards, I will choose to recognize that the client's experience is unique to them and to hear them completely and independently. Absolutely, that's great. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. What about others? I notice how to quickly fix the issue or comfort my client, but from today I will give myself a moment to be in the present moment and let the client feel heard first. Absolutely. That is extremely important. And I'm not saying that that urge to fix or make the client feel better is wrong. It's not wrong. It's just the client doesn't need that, especially not when they are in that moment when they're sharing that information. In that moment, they just need to feel validated that whatever they have gone through is valid and their emotions are valid. Yeah. What about others, guys? Any other responses? Okay, you can just, have this sentence with you. Like I said, don't treat it like something we just covered in a workshop and be done with it. Think about it, because this is actually something that matters for you guys. When you're talking to clients, this will come in handy and it will help you. All right. So thank you so much for interacting with me and making this experience meaningful.